So thank you very much. I will keep my time. So welcome everyone. Thank you very much for the host of this exciting program ahead. So I had a big discussion with the customs on these dangerous goods that I had issues with transporting.
It's like gold. It comes from
Exactly. There was questions whether it's dangerous, whether it decays, and we'll come to a conclusion.
I know we will get.
Okay, so I will give you an overview of what is waiting ahead of us for the coming 2 or 4 days, depending if you stay over in the consortium meeting until Friday. And as an introduction, I mean, we have I think we had the chance to witness the fact that between the time when we put PRISMAP together and the last year, the European Commission and the field had seen the provision, if you want, of this medical isotopes for European researchers as becoming or was strategic, but really has been recognized as being strategic. And this was actually taken up to a very high level at the European Commission, because it went to the Council of the European Union. So actually, I was not fully aware what was the Council of the European Union. Then I checked on the website. So actually, this is just the prime ministers and the presidents of the different countries part of the European Union. So that was a very nice, if you want, recognition, because when you just reflect back of where we were coming from, so this PRISMAP project was put together actually at a summer school or at a school. It was actually a final conference as well. It was from a Marie Curie training network. Was happening in Sicily, in Erice. So quite a different type of setting. It was in an old monastery, and all these brothers and sisters were sitting in this very religious room, and we were actually putting the first stones and the first steps towards a proposal that we finally submitted to the call of the European Commission for Infrastructures. And we, as the next, if you want, very odd type of settings, we started the PRISMAP projects while we were in the second lockdown in the Europe because of the COVID crisis. So you see all the happy consortium members joining, but of course virtually. So please disregard this laser. This is recorded from a previous slide. So we had 5 objectives when we put PRISMAP together. And one of the objectives was to provide new type of radionuclides for biomedical research. And you can define new types by many different ways. I will not go into the details on this, and we will have the chance actually to listen and to see what these novel radionuclides are meant, or how they can be interpreted and what they can bring to the field. So we were able to actually deliver really something which was not in the scene before we had set up PRISMAP. The second objective was that we wanted to have a common interface and a way that people can actually get to know these radionuclides, how they can apply, etc. And then we had set up this very nice website, which is prismap.eu, that you're all invited, of course, to use and to continue to go to have updates even beyond this final conference. The third objective was we were working, as you know, I was speaking about the difficulty to bring Toblerone in Poland. I mean, so isotopes is even more difficult to transport across borders. Some of the colleagues in the PRISMAP had very important undertaking for bringing, I would say, understanding that there is now a structuring community which is using these radionuclides for biomedical research, and they have to be the contact points so that we discuss with the European Medicine Agency, and this is what actually happened during PRISMAP, to be able then to really develop the work better. We produced a lot of new nuclear data, believe it or not, but some of these radionuclides, they were actually around for many, many years, for many decades even, and some of them have not so well-known properties in terms of half-life, decay, branching, things of this type. And so there has been quite a number of results which were obtained throughout PRISMAP, and this as well we will hear more later during these days. And finally, we wanted to not put all this effort of putting PRISMAP together that it would be lost after 5 years. This is what we would have in many of these European projects. And we had the capacity, because then we were meeting the strategy of the European Commission that you need to have a sustainable and long-lasting tool for providing researchers with this novel radionuclides. We had put actually together a PRISMAP Plus follow-up project, but this just only as a platform to then have a long-standing structure, and we'll see how we manage now in PRISMAP Plus. But of course, we don't know because we're under evaluation. We don't know if the external expert will actually appreciate what we are proposing in PRISMAP. So this is what was in the back of what you will hear later today, tomorrow, and the coming days. And basically, that was to set up a supply chain going really from target preparation to use of the radionuclides, either at the laboratories or having even researchers coming to some of the biomedical nodes. And so that you could really have this integrated and more elaborated and more efficient and involving these different institutes that you see in the back along the supply chain. So this is what we have been striving to develop and to maintain for the past 4 or 5 years. And that, I think, reflects quite well as well what happened is, anyway, the field was moving quite substantially during, as I said, during when we first wrote about PRISMAP to today. And here, this is just an example of how the portfolio of the radionuclides we were offering evolved. And that was coming not only from, of course, increased capacity that we had in the consortium, because there was developments and there was new radionuclides which could be available from the existing nodes of the consortium. But as well, we have put something which is a little odd, which is a button where you can click and you can see suggest. So you could actually interact with PRISMAP so that you could ask, well, can you make my favorite theranostic isotope so that I can do my research? And eventually the answer would be yes, or the answer would be, oof, this will take years, or eventually, sorry, this is maybe something that you need to look for in industrial settings. And something that we wanted from the beginning, we were not sure whether we had to integrate that in a tool like PRISMAP, was this biomedical nodes. And so actually here, NCBJ was one of these nodes. And you see that now the radionuclides were not traveling to the users, but the users were traveling to some of them. So not everyone was used, and not here in Poland, and for different reasons. But you see that actually this was promoting then the research with services performed in the different laboratories. And this as well, we will hear more during the days. And here's a bit more, I would say, pictorial and a bit more descriptive ways of all these biomedical infrastructures look like. As I said, we have been working quite intensively, and so we are now at a point where we are finishing PRISMAP. We put PRISMAP Plus together, and we are reflecting a little bit of, okay, what happened during the past 4 years. And actually, you see from that indeed there has been quite a number of projects which have been developed and matured in PRISMAP from external users. But we have been able to supply from 1 to 12 deliveries, depending on the project, what were the objectives and what were the requests, so that you went going from proof of concept to almost translation of radioligand into the clinical settings with all the preliminary preparatory work, dosimetric studies, etc. And that was done with a different type of radionuclides. And this as well, now we are reflecting to see, okay, what were the requests and things of this type. And this as well, we'll hear more during these days on how we came up with this. So actually, we had a very step increase, if you want. We are working with an expert panel where you can see the composition. So we have Penny here traveling from Canada to tell us how this panel was operating for the selection of the different projects along different calls that we organized. And so we organized 5 calls, and you have to understand that we had from 1 to 2 calls per year because we were actually from the first year not necessarily accepting project, because we are putting the platform together. We are looking on how this works together and how a user can then apply, get the project, and start to get the sales. But you see that we were starting very, I would say, on a very moderate pace with from 1 to 8 projects granted for the 3 first calls. And then we had a kick, and we'll understand as well later how this happened, so that actually we were having a much wider and European-wide subscriptions of the PRISMAP services because we are getting known, we are getting people interested, we had new radionuclides offered, and you see that actually with the 2 last calls we had really a very important number. So actually this is very frustrating, because when we had reached this point, this is now where we're discussing the final conference. And so that's why we now want to get to the next phase, which is PRISMAP Plus. So from the origin, we didn't want to only focus on the preclinical research and proof of concept and feasibility studies, but we wanted as well to give the chance to the groups to have a clinical translation. So this didn't exactly happen in a very common way, and we will actually hear feedbacks from 2 of the 3 projects which actually had the capacity, the possibility to have a use in the clinical settings, and we'll hear how did it happen. And I think we have today Professor Morga, and tomorrow Professor Pretze, which will tell us how this happened, together with other, let's say, feedbacks that we had from what we call users. So as well, we take this opportunity to understand. So what were the good side and what were the things which were maybe to improve. And this is the type of feedbacks we received. They are not all absolutely 100% positive. So we had some criticism. Very often the criticism were from the user feedback actually mitigated or balanced with some positive part. So we take this as a signal which were that the users, most of them were really benefiting and were really getting something which was useful for them when they got the PRISMAP radionuclides. And you see that these comments, they go from whether the quality of the radionuclides were good, or it was the process to get to the radionuclides, or if there were issues and how we were able to solve it. You see as well the countries which have been benefiting from that, and we were, for some of us in Barcelona, the European Association of Nuclear Medicine Congress, ENM 25, and we had a few of this user project which could already present their results in the so-called top-rated oral presentations. This is just for the record. I don't want you to read all that, but to tell you, so we have got a feedback from all the projects, or almost all of the projects, and so that's how now what we are working on and what we have integrated, if you want, so that we can take this over for PRISMAP Plus. So, I mean, this is an introduction presentation, right? So I am not going to tell you. I just want to give you some teasers, right, of what is coming up for the coming days. So I want to give you maybe an overview of eventually or a snapshot of what we had some highlights. Either it could be because of a beautiful sunset on the Baltic Sea, but that could be, of course, on more scientific or training or involvement of researchers in very important fields like radiolampanites, which were then organized with a summer school and workshop at the Polsha Institute or in the TU in Roskilde in Denmark, but as well as I mentioned, so representation in big conferences. ENM, we were invited at the Gordon Research Conference, and then we participated at the 100th anniversary of the Auger electron symposium, which was taking place in Montpellier 2 years ago. And please visit us. We have a Zenodo platform where all the publications are collected. We have a website, prismap.eu, and all this you can really get a feeling on all these outputs that we could get. So I would say this is now for us a milestone. This is the final conference of the PRISMAP program. So we are a lot now writing. We'll have to report. We'll have to discuss with the European Commission as well on how they see how we have been performing during PRISMAP. But we had the chance to already be identified, as I mentioned, with meeting the strategy of the European Commission of providing capacity in Europe to provide these innovative radionuclides for biomedical research. So that we had already taken up the learnings from PRISMAP, so that we are submitting a PRISMAP Plus new program. This is still access to large infrastructures in Europe. So this is what Europe is equipped with. You know, they have 3 pillars. They have training excellence pillars. They have excellent researchers, this European, this ERC type of approaches, and then they have infrastructures pillars. And so we are in the infrastructure pillars. So we are taking the best of our infrastructures so that we are serving research for different communities. And here, obviously, this is radiopharmaceuticals and nuclear medicine. And this is the new consortium which was put together, as well receiving, if you want, recommendations from the European Commission. They had a certain vision as well of what was required, and that was then published to what they call the targeted call. And you will see that we have the same elements of radionuclides which can be produced, and I didn't show and will not show the portfolio because I'm sure this will create a lot of discussions on why is that and that. I had these questions at the webinar when we introduced PRISMAP Plus. So there is a certain portfolio. What is important is there is a way to interact as well with PRISMAP Plus, so that eventually this portfolio can be evolved according to the needs, what we call, of the user community that we are growing and federating. So we produce, we heard of the cyclotron here. We know we have a nuclear reactor as well, not far. And you see that Poland then has a very important part, because this is indeed the central in the European landscape, at least to cover all the neighboring countries that we see here in Central Europe. But you see as well that we have been extending very north in Scandinavia, in Portugal, even in Greece. So this is the, if you want, the map of what we'll be delivering, as well giving access to users so that they can use the radionuclides. They don't have license or even have technical capacity. And from the start as well, including future facilities. And we had a very important experience, because from the start of PRISMAP, when we are writing to today, we can count on the new facility which is coming online. I mean, not in full capacity and not from yesterday to tomorrow, but we have the space facility in Italy, which 70 MeV cyclotrons, which came from under construction, commissioning, to getting the first radioisotope and nuclear reaction out of the cyclotron. And this happened from last year to this year. So we have this chance, if you want, that some of the future facilities are coming online. And so we continue to integrate this, what we call future facilities, so that they will have the chance to integrate this capacity in PRISMAP Plus when they are ready, and to help as well increasing in the capacity, benefiting as well from the expertise of the consortium that is of relevance. So this is then getting me to the almost the last slide. So I hope I could raise at least interest of what is going to come up for the rest of the week here in Warsaw. So nice weather, a bit gray, no rain, nothing announced. I didn't see any snow, maybe, so good. For us, of course, it's very nice because we started from our kickoff in the lockdown of the COVID time. And we already, if you would go to medical-radionuclides.eu, you will see that actually you're directed to PRISMAP. So we have already the ambition to, let's say, have a longer standing platform for this medical radionuclides in Europe through this PRISMAP Plus, PRISMAP transiting to PRISMAP Plus platform. And then with that, I think I thank you for listening. And I think it's time now that I hand over the dangerous goods to Renata.